Okay, so we've learned how to make a square in perspective, in our 1-point perspective. And I said that was super useful because you could make a cube. And if you could make a cube, you could make an architectural structure like this. So if you look here, we've got this one is, 1, 2, 3 squares tall with a little bit on top, and 1, 2, 3, 4 squares wide. So, pretty precise. And most things that are architectural are, pretty precise. But you can see with what we know now that we could take and we could literally take that same sort of structure, that same idea, and turn it into perspective. You see 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 squares wide. So let me show you a little bit about how I went about doing that. Okay. So I've got my horizon line, and for the purposes of our lesson, I'm going to put the vanishing point like way over here, just because that'll give us more room to work in over here and hopefully make it a little bit easier for you to see. Okay, I've just arbitrarily drawn a line right here. This is just how wide I'm going to make everything. So that's the leading edge of one of my squares. So I'll just go ahead and draw back to my vanishing point. Okay, cool. And so now I'm just going to take this leading edge right here, the corner of it, and just lining it up with the edge of my field of view, right? And that gave me my first square. Okay, so then if I want to get my second square, what I could just do is just take like this again, and this will give me my second square. And my third. And my fourth. So we just found all those squares, right? Okay, cool. So then we know that if it's a cube, right, we can just go up with it. So here's how high that is. And we can go once. See, I'll make a little dash here. And here's twice. Here's 3 times. Hopefully we'll have, just enough. And we'll have a little bit just for the heck of it, right, for our little top there. So that was our edge here. Okay. And once again, we could go up once, twice, 3 times, and a little bit. Okay. All right, so that is my second edge right here. Boom. Okay. And so now I'm just going to go ahead and I'll complete those squares just so you can see those. And I'm drawing nice and dark, because I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. Of course, if I was making a drawing, that I wanted to have as a piece of artwork, then of course I would draw really light. And I'd even only be drawing the things that I needed to draw. Okay. Now, of course, we can just line everything back to here. But before I even do that, so that I don't have to draw everything all the way back, what I'll do is I'm just going to go up with this. Now, if I was really concerned about getting this accurate, you know what I would do? My paper ruler, so nice, I can just measure this right here, measure the edge of the paper, because the edge of the paper is always perfect. So whenever you get a chance, use the edge of the paper as a guide. And you can see, here's my edge, here's where that line is. Did pretty good. Okay, cool. So I'm just going to start drawing these lines back Now, all the way back to the vanishing point. But once again, I don't have to draw it all the way back there, do I? That'd just be silly. No reason to do that, because I know that that line is going to continue. It's just one more thing I have to erase. And down, and so forth. And so on. Okay. This line as well, I can just go straight up with this. So I'm just going to assume that I got that pretty parallel. Actually, you know what? If I look at that, I don't think I did a good job at all. To the edge of my paper, to the edge over here. Well, it's not as horrible as I thought, but you know, yeah, it's over a little bit. Anyways, but there's that. And so then here's one right here. Okay. So we're good, and then we have, you know, basically, you'll see, I don't have to draw this, but I will just for the heck of it. You'll see that, okay, we've got this wall of cubes, right? But we have that arch in the middle, and so that arch, we can get rid of this. I've sort of pointed that out. So we don't need that, and we won't need this, or this. Okay, so let's draw the rest of it here. So you can see this is where that edge is, right there. So there's my other side. And these were just coming straight across, weren't they? Right? So there's the front of my arch. There's the back of my arch, so to speak. Let's see on the diagram. So we've got this part and this part, but now we have to draw this part here. And so you can see it's exactly two different. Right, we had two. Okay, so now we have to draw this arch. And that's where, for right now, I'm just going to fake it in. But in a moment, I'm going to show you exactly how you would do that. Okay, so there, I'm going to darken these guys in, and that, my friends, is how I could draw a very, very precise little architectural thing using cubes as a unit. And I was able to make cubes because I was able to make squares. All right. And you can see how that has all worked itself out. Cool, right? Okay, so now the next thing would be, well, how did I get that arch? Well, you know, I just faked it. But there's a way, right? So if you can make a square, then you can make a circle. Okay, so let me show you a little something. So here is my square, right? And in my square, I can have a circle. And here is like sort of the central axis of that circle. In other words, the center of it, the middle of it. As you know, I can take something in perspective. And, you know, I could, very sloppily here, I could find the center, right? And you would think that in perspective, that's where the central axis, in other words, this line right here, you would think that that's where it would be, right? But the thing is that if you did it that way, it would just look wrong. It would just be really goofy. And the reason that is because a circle, or in this case an oval, or even more precisely an ellipse, right, has to be continuous, right? It's a mathematical thing. Maybe it has something to do with pi. I don't know. Talk to the math teacher about that. But that is how it is, right? And so what we find is that we need to have the measured, the measured half of that square. All right. So what do I mean by that? Well, basically, so if this was my little square right here, instead of taking this as the center, which, you know, it is, that's a perspective center, what I got to do is I got to measure how wide this is and cut it in half. Okay, and so if I've got that anywhere close to being right, and I can measure it just by this and this, yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, then that is where my axis is, because that is the half of the circle. You see? Half the circle, half of the circle. I know it's weird, right? It's totally weird, but that is how it works, because otherwise, as I was pointing out, it just doesn't look right. It's just off, as you can see right here. Okay. And the thing is that this will work. You can see how this looks very right, even when your perspective is skewed. Even so I don't have that vanishing point right in the middle, it still works out. I still have that halfway in the middle, and that's where that oval is. It doesn't distort. That oval has to be just a perfect oval. That's just how it works. Okay. Otherwise it'll look funny. Okay. So here's the deal, is that drawing an oval like this, right, in that squared circle right there, right? I don't know, maybe if you're an art teacher, been doing this thing for 20 years or whatever, you can fake it pretty good. Otherwise, you know, it's kind of tricky, and this one's not so bad. But oh my gosh, you try and do something like this, it's just off, and you know, it's going to be a real mind bender to get that sort of straight, right? Oh, that's okay, children. I have a cheat, so to speak. At first glance, this looks like really complicated, doesn't it? But it's really not that hard. So let me show you. So let's say that we've got our horizon line up here, and I'm putting it up way up high, just so that we have a lot of area here to work with, make it a little easier to see. And let's say I've got my square here that I'm going to make, and I'm going to make it nice and big. Okay. And it's going to go back to the vanishing point, right? And back to the vanishing point over here. All good, right? And so then we can find that it is a square by running through here, right? And we can find the back edge of our square. Cool. And so now we can draw a circle in here. Here's how you want to go about doing it, right? This is like super easy. You're going to get like perfect ovals every time now. Okay, so if I say like, okay, let's get rid of the ones I don't need, it just makes it that much more confusing. Remember, I don't have to find the center of this thing, because that's not going to work for me anyway, so I don't need this line anymore either. It'll just make it that much more confusing. Okay, in fact, get rid of this one too. All right. Okay, so I've got my square. And so then what I need to do is I'm just going to go ahead and right here, this back edge right here, I'm going to just draw down, draw a little guideline down. Keep it nice and perpendicular. Right? That means at a right angle. Okay. So then what I want to do is I want to find that central axis, right? Because remember, with the circle, if we run through the center of it, the measured center of it, then it's going to be right. Okay, so finding this center, you know, I guess I could draw an X, but here, I'll just use my paper ruler, be nice and easy. So I figure like, okay, does that look like half right there? Let's see. So I'm going to draw a line here. I've got it to where I think half is. It wasn't too bad. But let's say I was really off, right? Let me show you this trick real quick. So I've got this here, and I'm trying to find the center, and I think, oh, okay, that looks like the center to me, right? Let's just pretend. And so what I could do is I could measure this. Here, I've got the corner here and a little mark right here, and I could come up here and put my corner up here and my marks here. Oh, yeah, it's not even close to being center, but I can go in the center of that, probably, guesstimate that a little bit more. And so that's going to get me right there. Okay, but in any case, we'll go ahead and we're going to find the measured center of this thing, right? And that's where our axis would run through that, right? And so what we want to do is here's the edge of our little square. As you see this, how this is coming down this way? Well, I just want to do the same thing over here. So here and here. And that's where my oval will go. And you can see already it would be a lot easier to draw an oval in here than trying to draw it, thinking about these things out here. In fact, we don't even really need these anymore. We could get rid of them because we're not drawing a square, we're drawing a circle, a perfect circle. So I don't need those edges anymore. Okay, so there it is. We could draw our oval in here. Now wait a minute, we can do it even better than that, right? So if I was to find the halfway point here, this looks like about the halfway. Let's see, am I close? So here and here. Oh boy, was I off. There it is. So let's see, what about there? Is that good? Yeah, better. Okay, so we've got that, and we've got this here. It won't matter. Okay, so basically I've found half, right? Here's half of this little sort of rectangle that I've drawn right here. So if then I go from half here and here, so you got this here, and you just divide this in half. Just remember at this point, you're just dividing everything in half. Okay, so here, so that was the halfway point. Okay, now check it out. See this right here, this line? Try and find about the halfway point there, etc., etc., right? And hopefully I've got those right. I could check, but Okay, and so then, watch this. I'll just go from here to here. In other words, I'm just nipping off that corner right there. And then from here to here, from here to here, from here to here. And you can see, oh my God, look, we're getting an oval already. Okay, we'll just nip the corners off a little bit on the ends here. Look at that, the oval has practically drawn itself, because now all I got to do is just go and let my wrist arc a little bit as I draw that around, and a little bit, just soften those edges a little bit. And look at that. I've got like the perfect oval, or in other words, the perfect circle in perspective. And it's like perfect. It's like just right. So isn't that nice? But it all started with making the square. Okay. So this one's getting a little bit long, so I'll cut it off. But in the next one, I'll just show you a little bit how I could then make a cylinder. Because just like making the cube was really, really useful, making a cylinder is also going to be like super, super useful. And, just getting us back to square one, kind of had to do all that stuff to draw this, right? So we've got architecture that is made out of these cubes. I've got a floor that's perfect square tiles, and I've got this circle turned into a cylinder. So, so kind of a lot going on, right? I mean, who would have thought, this little drawing looked kind of simple, but it's just right. Like you could have a photograph and it would be just like that, right? And that's what we're working on here, is being able to draw really just right. Okay, more on that in the next one.